ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. We are reading from the book Meditation and Spiritual Life by Swami Yatiswarananda. We are currently in the chapter titled Reactions to Sadhana, chapter 29, starting the section Connect Your Consciousness with the Divine Consciousness. Spiritual consciousness should be an extension of our individual consciousness. We must stand firmly on the ground of our own consciousness and then have spiritual consciousness. The point must first be a very definite one and then be in tune with the whole circle. Without a very definite pointhood, no experience of the circle is possible. Only when I am, God is. I am the spirit free from all troubles. This quote-unquote I is to be strengthened. The other quote-unquote I, the limited one that continually creates troubles, is to be eliminated. We must retain our consciousness, but the center of our consciousness must be shifted from the false ego to the true self. We must always be rooted in our higher consciousness. Sometimes we want to float in the infinite without being rooted in our own consciousness. There should never be a time when we remain uprooted. Our roots must be struck somewhere. When we take our roots away from the false ground, we must at once take root in our true self and not allow ourselves to remain uprooted. When devotees think of their own object of meditation and see the form vividly, they must also be able to establish the relationship. Otherwise, they will float in the world of imagination. One must be able to connect one's consciousness with the consciousness of the Ishtam, one's object of meditation. If one does not do this, serious troubles and unsettlement may follow, and the object of the practice is not attained. If you do not have the positive living presence of your Ishtam, you feel you float in the air and you become uprooted. Your own consciousness loses its base. There is no doubt at all that you should uproot yourself from the false ground as swiftly and as decisively as possible. Great stress is to be laid on the positive presence of your Ishtam. Then you also feel an inner peace. The Ishtam is not an imagination. The presence of the Ishtam is something real after you have made the form vivid. This is a very important point. If the practice is performed in the right way, you will feel infinite strength and calm and stillness, a deep inner sense of peace, as if a picture of bliss were placed in your heart. Nothing can ruffle you then in any way. Many of the present bad effects of your practices come from your making the form of your Ishtam vivid without establishing the necessary relationship, without connecting your own consciousness with the consciousness of your Ishtam. In spiritual life, there always comes such a crisis. It comes to all who perform their practices intensely and regularly, conscientiously. It comes to all if they really advance and really do meditation energetically. No one is spared this unsettlement and this crisis. But then they should ask the spiritual guide what to do and discuss with them about their practices. If no difficulties come at all, as it happens in some cases, there is something wrong. Their practices are not effective. In the case of a jnani, the crises are very less virulent. There is more of balance and discrimination, though there too some crises are sure to appear. But always remember, both for the bhakta and for the jnani, spiritual consciousness must under all circumstances be an extension of the individual consciousness. Next section. Do not give up your effort. To all of us these reactions come, physical and mental. And along with our spiritual practice, we must increase our capacity to bear these reactions. Many people break down under these reactions. Many become completely unsettled for a time. They become worse than they were before taking up spiritual practice. If you want to shift the center of your consciousness from the lower to higher centers, you have to pass through periods of unsettlement. While people are leading a worldly life, they do not really become really aware of all these phases. But spiritual practice, if properly performed, always stirs up different subconscious currents, and this leads to unsettlement. Very often in such cases, there is no strength left. Sometimes there comes a long period of disturbance and vacillation, and even moral instability. When they are in these depressing states, people tend to give up all spiritual practice instead of vigorously increasing it. If they give up, they are gone spiritually. They cannot avoid a nasty fall from which they may not be able to recover for a long time. So giving up one's spiritual practice at such times is very bad and very dangerous. Cling to it all the more. Try to make it more intense, more effective. There should be a calm, steady, one-pointed and dogged performance of meditation and japa, coupled with strict fulfillment of ethical culture. All those who do not do this will be eliminated sooner or later and will not be able to get anywhere near the goal. He who does not fulfill the conditions of yama and niyama will not attain anything. We saw a lot of discussion of yama and niyama earlier in chapters 9, 17 and 18. His energy will be too small to enable him to stand the stress and pressure bearing down upon him from all sides. That is why no aspirant can afford to waste energy unnecessarily through physical and mental channels. The old teachers knew perfectly well why they had to prescribe the disciplines of yama and niyama, why they had to be so strict about morality. If these rules are not fulfilled, the result can be only a nervous breakdown, a great weakening of all our powers, and a great slavery to the senses. Do not think these are mere theories. We too have passed through these early stages of spiritual life, and we have seen and heard so much from our great teachers. This is not mere book knowledge found in some musty old volumes of old traditions. The first period of sadhana, when one has to stand all these tremendous reactions, is a period of great trial. One must have patience and dogged perseverance. Then will come better days. Tremendous mental energy is to be kept under control. Otherwise, we cannot get the power to move. Even if we have a strong body and a strong mind, there comes a time for us when we feel terribly unsettled and nervous. First, there is the period of fighting with unruly impulses and imaginations. Then the period of fighting with mental automatisms, intellectual habits, and then follows the period of poise, peace, and inner harmony. Some of these reactions are of course avoidable if the aspirant carefully follows the instructions of his teacher and remains in the company of holy men. But if you don't feel any kind of reaction at all, if you find that your spiritual life is all smooth sailing right from the beginning, in all probability, there is something wrong with your sadhana. Most probably your spiritual practice is not deep or intense. It may be going on mechanically. However, this does not mean struggles and confusions are sure signs of your spiritual intensity. Non-spiritual factors often get mixed up with spiritual striving, but the chaff soon gets separated from the grain. Those who have genuine spiritual aspiration continue the struggles until they emerge successful and victorious. Those who have artificially stimulated their spiritual appetite soon stop after some initial show of fight and may even end up in a mental hospital. The aspirant needs sympathetic treatment. During this period of his sadhana, an aspirant should be treated very kindly and with great understanding, because the unsettlement is not his fault, if one may say so, but the consequence of his spiritual practice. It is no use criticizing him for it. Let us not judge him. After he has passed through these periods, he will stand as a man among men. These periods will come to all of us only at different times. And this is lucky, because all these experiences enable some of us to help others. Swami Vivekananda once remarked, "I fought with my master for 6 long years, with the result that I know every inch of the way." This is from The Master as I Saw Him by Sister Nivedita, published in 1972, page 12. His intense spiritual struggles taught him all the difficulties that aspirants have to overcome. This knowledge enabled him to guide thousands of people. Many aspirants get terrified thinking their spiritual life, if it brings about such serious unsettlement, must be very harmful and dangerous. No doubt it can be so for the careless. Those who are unwilling to pay a high price need not try spiritual life. Breaking through the prison walls of instincts and impure memories to the broad daylight of spiritual consciousness is an adventure reserved only for the strong. In the meantime, an aspirant cannot be allowed to move in any company he likes, in the company of those who do not lead a perfectly chaste life. He is still in his spiritual childhood and adolescence, so he cannot take the risks a grown-up can take without any real danger. Do not think you belong to the group of spiritual grown-ups already. Most of you do not. Do not feel too sure of yourselves. Spiritual life cannot be lived on artificial grounds. You cannot do spiritual practice just as you take physical exercise. Our life should always be a natural life, but natural life means a life in tune with our higher nature, not with our lower animal nature. It is just the opposite of what the worldly minded understand by the term spiritual life. True spiritual life is the result of soul hunger. It is the result of an intense desire to rise to a higher plane. All of you, sometime or other, will have to pass through these reactions. Do not get panicky when these come, but be wide awake. The form of the reaction may be different, but the reactions cannot be avoided if you perform sadhana intensely. But always try to help the fellow aspirant who is passing through the period of unsettlement. Always be kind and considerate to him. When the Lord himself has taken charge of a devotee, he makes him pass through all these trials. He will force on you these tremendous struggles, whether you like it or not. So you must welcome them and learn your lesson. Facing these struggles and overcoming them are far more important than getting peace of mind, which eludes you anyway. Spiritual life can be intensified, the tempo of practice can be hastened, spiritual hunger can be stimulated, and thereby the period of spiritual struggles can be shortened. But you have to pass through all the reactions and painful mental transformations, though you can pass through them very quickly instead of taking a very long time. The more intense your sadhana, the greater the reactions, but the shorter their duration. Swami Abhedananda used to say that in his life he had passed through the experience of 10 lives. All yogis try to shorten their period of spiritual struggles by intensifying their sadhana. They have to face great reactions, obstacles, and temptations, but they are endowed with such tremendous grit and strength that they cheerfully go through these fiery ordeals, whereas worldly people prepare a long-range plan of going slowly at a snail's pace in spiritual life and have to be satisfied with mere reading and talking. Hold on to your higher center of consciousness. All these spiritual struggles trouble you only as long as you have not discovered your own center of spiritual consciousness. As soon as you discover it, the battle is more than half won. You then become sure of your path, and this takes away a lot of uncertainty and tension. Afterwards, the struggles become subtler, but less violent and less manifest outwardly. You are then able to conduct the inner warfare with greater poise and strength. Every true struggle has its reward. You should always hold on to the center of your consciousness, whatever be the extenuating circumstances. When a trouble arises, go to your center of consciousness and stay there until the trouble is over. When temptation in any form approaches, you go there. When any evil impulse wants to take shape, go there. When you get kicks and blows from the outside world, go there. Keep it fixed at all times. Make it your very home. Without shifting the center of consciousness, it is an impossible task to gain control over the mind. And you cannot efficiently shift the center of your consciousness and keep it fixed. Change the thought currents and make them flow along higher channels unless you perform your sadhana, your japa and meditation steadily and intensely for a long time. Sometimes, owing to our old habits, the center of our consciousness goes down after remaining up for a while, and then all kinds of thoughts peculiar to that center begin to bubble up. So you must prepare yourself to face such situations. Always think of yourself as a soul, a self-luminous entity, separate from body and mind. After your usual meditation, have some set readings from the Upanishads or from the monastic stanzas of Shankaracharya. There's a footnote here. For that, it says, see Swami Yatiswarananda, The Divine Life, published in 1973, pages 276 to 297. While repeating these passages about the real nature of yourself, try to drive these ideas deep into your mind. Follow a combination of the negative and positive methods of spiritual practice. Deny the body and all that is connected with it, but assert the self intensely, vigorously, with your whole being. For many beginners, this brings about a headache. But then there are so many other things which bring us headaches. Why not have this one for a change? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.